Good afternoon, friends. For today's meeting, we invited a person who has structured his business so well over the past few years that now he is not only actively developing his own business, but he's also developing the businesses of entire teams, huge international teams. He has a key to building a business, starting a business in a new country, and being successful. This is a person who, for the past several months, has increased his monthly turnover by 10, 15, 20, or even 25%. This is a person who, for the past several years, has demonstrated his commitment to business, and he always generously shares his knowledge. We know that this person does a lot for both his team and the company. Today, his topic is a business proposal, and this format is taken from practice. It works, and it works not only for him, it works throughout the Choral Club space. I am happy to pass the floor to our respected double silver master, Alexander Zavgorodniy. Alexander, you are on the air. Good afternoon, evening, morning, to each his own. Can you hear me? We see Alexander in his luxurious car. The connection is excellent. Well, we already hear Alexander. We hear him. Now let's wait for your 10 points. Please, those who hear perfectly, give 10 points. That's it? I can see your high points. I'm talking 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? We do. Alexander Serhiyevich Zavgorodniy, you have the floor. Thanks. Hello, friends. This is also unusual. As far as I understand, the quantity of people listening to me now at the same time is an absolute maximum. Thanks to the company for such an opportunity, for such a platform, and for the unification of all of us from all around the world. We are entering a really interesting era. This is a very unusual time, where you and I should make the most of the current situation. When they say to me, oh, it's all so difficult now, or nothing difficult, or when some kind of situation in the world is happening, I always answer, look, why are you telling me all this? I haven't any say in that. I want to influence only what I can change. I cannot change the situation. I can only say for myself, my behavior, my energy, my attitude, and of course, my results. The situation will not change from the fact that I hear that someone is in trouble now or not. I want to create. I want to move on. I want to be truly effective at the moment. My friends, tell me, am I visible in a large square? The fact is that I can see myself in a small square. Give a little clarification. How do you see me? Because I'm in my large square. Do you see me in a large one? Great. Then I will tune into this picture format. Great. That's right. Well, what are we going to talk about today? The topic, in fact, is really relevant because the time has come for changes. We have a code name in our team, not crisis, not some other kind of a thing, but just a period of change or a new stage in our life, in our business. We'll talk about this. Secondly, we'll talk about the specific advantages that have come to the fore today. Despite the fact that the conditions have changed, our business has not changed. What we used to demonstrate, the idea of a product, the idea of a business, the idea of freedom, and the attitude of other teams, we are demonstrating now. It's just that sometimes we focus on, let's say, other advantages that currently exist. We'll talk about this. And thirdly, of course, I would like to familiarize you with my practice as much as possible. I will show you the matrix of a business meeting. Not just the way I personally conduct a business meeting, but its matrix, because each of you has your own style, your own manner. Someone has just joined, and someone already has great achievements. And it will be very important for you to shape your presentation style. So, what I can be useful for is to share how I do it. Then let's talk about our 3 blocks. The first we should bring up is how important it is to master yourself in this current situation. The second, the arguments. And the third, we'll talk directly about the matrix. I will try to speak more slowly now because there is translating into other languages, so my speech will be more structured, consistent, and not so emotional, as it is typical for me. My thoughts fly much faster than I speak. Okay, so the first, what can I say about the situation that you and I find ourselves in? I started a business back in 2008, and you know that when I got into the business, it was just the period when the currency rate and the whole economic situation changed. Here, in Ukraine, the rate was 5, and then it instantly rose to almost 8, which meant that prices increased by 70%. All that I had at that time, I had no internet connection, was communication with my mentors. So I believe that at that moment, my dad and my mentors, Vitaly Petrovich, Natalia Krasi, managed to suggest the most important idea to me: the understanding that everything will be fine, that there will be people who will need the product, and that our business will prosper. Because I believe that as soon as the idea appears in our head that it's going to be difficult, it will be. As soon as we psych ourselves up for success, everything becomes really good. Alexander, excuse me for butting in. Alexander, I have to interrupt you. We have simultaneous interpretation here, and the interpreters are complaining about the speed. I speak quickly. I'll slow down. Yes, they ask you to be a little slower. Thanks a lot. Okay, thank you. We also have a delay, apparently. Aha, everything's okay. And so, the idea we accept, the idea we believe in, becomes a reality. I remember really well that in the period when we began our activity, we did not pay attention to anyone's words that it would not work out, that it would be difficult for us. We just went on. What happened? 2.5 years later, I became a master. It was 2012. On the one hand, it was a difficult year, and this whole period was not easy. At that time, I was awarded on stage at a company event in the suburbs of Moscow. If someone has been with the company for as long as I have, please write in the chat. So, the 3 of us were awarded, and I did not wonder if this was always like that, or we should be more. For me, it was just the natural order of things. I remember those vibes. I remember my inner delight when this happened. You know, why I'm telling you this now is because today the situation is quite similar from the point of view, in general, of those changes in the world. Someone says that this is the so-called crisis or something else. However, I'm convinced that if we assume the right attitude today, we absolutely will not notice this crisis as I did not notice then. Just imagine, only 3 masters were awarded for a 6-month period. We would have to ask Vladimir Ovsepian how many masters we have in just a month at the moment. It seems to me this figure should be at least 5 to 10 times more. I wonder how many. Only in my organization, with Konstantin's strong branches, 2 new masters were opened this month. There is a monthly dynamic. Over the past 3 months, in my opinion, there has been an increase of 63%. In general, this is the main idea for the beginners, my friends. The idea that everything will work out, that now our big break has arrived, has to be rooted in our heads. our glory hour. I will explain why. First, what will happen in our business now? Let's take a consumer group. First, consumers will redefine their values, revise their budgets, and begin to buy more really important things. You see, our niche, the niche of health, will always be a priority. That is, this niche will remain at that moment when everyone else will tighten up, as I can observe today. I was at a meeting of restaurateurs, all of the restaurant business owners in Ukraine. They are unanimously saying that at the moment they have a decline. The same is with the entertainment industry, in the real estate industry. But at the same time, the health industry is now gaining momentum. I know that the company is enhancing both capacity in terms of production and delivery times. You heard these webinars. What is it all about? It's about re-examination of priorities, and people will come to the health industry more, come to us. This is the first idea. Second, I am sure that in any case, there will be two groups of people. There will be people who begin to say, poor me, now I have to cut to the minimum to save. My average check will decrease. There will also be people who won't notice this. Well, that is, they will continue to use the product as they used to. What is the way out of this situation? I started to work to develop in the Choral Club at that moment, in the territory where the average income of people was $150 per month. Imagine a district center without the internet, and then there was no delivery, nothing of the kind, and people earned such money. Naturally, the average check of the average purchase in my region was much less than, say, in Kiev or somewhere in Europe. Well, what did we do? How did I explain that situation to myself? About 5 to 10 people of my team with an average purchase of 100 to 150 points made a turnover of 1,000 points. So in our team, we made a decision. Okay, our people are less wealthy than anywhere else. Besides, life is difficult now. That's why we simply increase the number of people and make it so that those 1,000 points of the team turnover will be made not by 10 people, but by 20 or 25. I will do the same this month. Imagine that immediately after we got involved in the work, we even did not feel any changes in the turnover. This is my first conclusion and my first idea for today. This is my first conclusion and the first idea that you can realize today. What's most important, I believe that those people who today will go into retained mode, will try to stabilize something and so on, will lose. Those people who take a position of growth, dynamics, recruiting, message to new people, they will grow manyfold. Here is my first idea. The second idea, let's talk about business. To date, a huge number of people have fallen into the zone of problems, the crisis zone. I will not dwell on the issue. You most likely hear about it from everywhere. I'll show you how to take advantage of this situation. It is all about constantly taking a detached view of my business, as if I'm standing on a balcony and looking at myself, at my business, what is going on in it, what kind of people come, what kind of dynamics are going on, and what it is connected with. This is how my brain works. I like to analyze. What did I see? I saw that probably half of my key people entered the business when they had hard times in their life. Analyze yourself. Remember the people who have earned serious money, say $5, $10, $20,000. Well, here are a few examples. Konstantin Tarnopolsky, Dmitry Skachkov, who now opens the next classification after the Silver Master. You know what? They came at a time when Konstantin's business did not develop as much as in its boom years. Dima moved from the territory where a difficult period began, in our country, in Ukraine, and naturally, he experienced a certain sense of futility. His business collapsed. He was in search of something new. What idea do I want to convey? That those people who are truly successful, active, purposeful, who have always been in business, would not have considered our business idea when things were fine with them. They simply would not have paid attention to it. If it were not for the difficulties that arose in the country or specifically in their lives, I probably would not have most of my key people today. The reason I get across the point is the following. At present, a huge number of people whom we could not approach before did not dare to consider the possibility of working with them at all, are open to our offers, are in search of new ideas, and, the way I figure it, we have from 6 months to a year. This is the period when you and I can grow many-fold as far as the number of people, our partners, is concerned. Actually, the growth can be from 10 to 40, even up to 50. If you have about 10 people on your team, or suppose you are alone, you will have 10 to 20 new partners. The idea is, on the one hand, we, together with them, can now compensate for the situation that has arrived in the world. We will begin to grow together. This is the first idea. On the other hand, you certainly understand that sooner or later, people get used to everything, get used to the situation, adapt to a certain lifestyle. The so-called crises pass. That is, we get used to everything, right? And just imagine that huge army of people, I don't know how to say it right, which we will bring to our teams today. Just imagine what we can create together with them. What kind of organizations will be? How we'll be able to grow. This is not just about orderly development. It's about exponential growth. It's about what's happening on my network today. How Konstantin Tarnopolsky is growing. How my side organizations are growing. I see an enormous dynamic that I could not even dream of before, every month. I believe that one of the main factors why this happens is the fact that our business has become attractive. People who are growing very actively today are those who have learned to combine two skills: the skill of working with consumers and the recruiting and competent management of partners. These are two of the main directions. So, if someone believes that he has room to develop in those two directions, my friends, now is the time to make this decision and start moving. So, let's summarize what has been said in the first part and move on to the practical block. We talked about our inner condition, what we can control. It is ourselves. This is the first. The second we talked about was the consumer market, what we have to do. Expand the number of clients, move to the focus of recruiting rather than retention. The third is to learn how to make business offers that people are ready to consider more than ever today. These are our main tricks. And now we move on to the business offer, how I do it, how I see the matrix of presenting information at the moment. And, accordingly, how someone who understands that this skill has not been worked out for him can learn to do this. Our business meeting. Thanks a lot for the slides. This is what is important to understand first. When I entered the business, I, like many of you, most likely understood that I did not have, say, innate charisma. I did not have the business experience behind me, a good car, expensive appearance, and so on. I didn't have, say, anything to exploit. Let's use this modern word. I could not exploit my energy. It was very important for me, say, to learn to communicate competently, and most importantly, to learn how to transfer my knowledge and my experience to my network. How could I do that? At that moment, it really helped me that the basis of knowledge and experience of Mikhail Rutinsky was already laid. This is a network from Tatiana Protsenko, from my sponsorship vertical, a basis of knowledge where everything was structured. So, I've learned the main things. I realized that in order for me to show a person the business in its entirety, to show all its capabilities, I have to learn to talk about 4 blocks. What are these blocks? They are the company, the product, the business model, and the development system. That is, in fact, now you can see a slide in which there are more slides. What will be discussed is also acquaintances, and here are 4 of these blocks. No, you can go back, I'm still speaking generally. Here, and of course, further, is the completion, but in fact, the main blocks are the company, the product, the business model, and the development system. That's all. Let us analyze the main aspects of these 4 blocks, one by one. First, I believe that it makes sense to talk about how to most effectively invite people to meetings in modern life. Can I bring the slide back for a little while? I'll tell you when we can move on. Naturally, our task is to communicate with people. We have a list of our potential contacts. Well, suppose, which ones do we have? The social networks that we all use today, recommended friends that we can add, our entire huge list, which we must expand. This is the topic of individual meetings and individual conversations. Most often, I used to teach my partners how to call people like that. I said, you have to pick up the phone and say, hello, look, I have a business idea for you. I want to share it with you. And invite a person to the meeting. What happens today? When we do this now, we face the following. Most likely, before us, dozens and hundreds of people called this person with just such a message. Why has MLM picked up steam today? Today, a lot of people make such calls, their main rule being not to say anything specific, not to give any information, only a minimum. The task is to intrigue and invite to a meeting. I personally move away from this pattern today. I myself have been moving away from this pattern lately. You have to clarify how to do this more effectively. Talk about it with your mentors. I share only my own experience. I came to the conclusion that if today I don't say what I do, A, it is strange. B, it's a little inadequate. Why? Suppose I decided to start a business, for example, a restaurant. I call a friend and say, look, I decided to start a business. He says, which one? I go, I'd rather not discuss it over the phone. I can't tell you right now. But why am I not formulating my offer, for example, like this? I decided to develop a business in this or that area. I'm going to do this and that, so that the person understands why he will come to meet me, because until that moment, before I call the person, dozens of people have called him with similar offers, and he came there, and most likely, let's be honest, what people thought about the multi-level or other projects that currently exist in the world. They thought this business was not suitable for them because the information was provided to them incorrectly. However, when I call a person with a similar offer, the same happens. He associates me with all other people and does not come to a meeting. So now I believe that the main thing you have to do is probably radically the opposite of what I did and taught before. My opinion is that you have to learn how to make a short business offer, including by phone, at least to be prepared for it. I'm not talking about a marketing plan. I'm not talking about a detailed introduction to the product. I'm talking about that, in principle, you could simply bring a person up to date on what you were doing. And the most important thing here is to learn how to make a short business offer. This is when you are really open, the person understands you, and you are not like the rest for him. That's all. This is the main rule. Our task for today is to be different from the others and to speak as adequately and as directly as possible. So, we'll talk a little more about a short business offer later. What's next? When I make a call, I tell the person why I'm calling them now. A little reference. Why I am calling you. Second, I identify his need, whether he is ready to understand, ask a question. He says, well, this is quite interesting. I formulate an offer and then complete the transaction. The transaction is completed immediately at the meeting. What does the completing transaction look like? It is very important to understand that people today are afraid to communicate with someone in Zoom, to see each other. So they say, give me the links to the information. Well, that's how it usually happens. My task is to invite a person for a talk. This is a priority for me. At this moment, I always relieve tension. How? I say a few phrases. You know, I will share this idea with you. Or a person shares this idea if you are doing a promotion. The idea is basically simple. You just hear what I'm doing, and then you'll make a decision on whether you want to go into detail or not. It's just non-committal talks. It takes you only 20 minutes, and then you will think it over. You know, this so-called magic phrase has changed the percentage of people coming to the meeting so much that I began to have completely different results. Why? People began to relax. After all, why do most people not come to a business meeting? Because they already know something will be sold to them, something will be imposed on them. Someone will explain to them that this is the best opportunity in the world. You'll be lost without it, and so forth. That's why my task is to be as simple and articulate as possible. Get a message across that our communication does not involve anything obligatory. That's it. That's the point. So, my friends, I hope that these simple recommendations will help you at least just a little. Let's move on. Designated time, designated place. Today we communicate in Zoom, right? However, this period will pass, and from Zoom, we'll switch to offline meetings again. We'll try to communicate offline anyway, so everything that we'll say further can be used by everyone. Vladimir, please write what's with the timing. Do we have another 20-25 minutes? It seems to me we started much later. We have enough time, so we'll go on listening to you with pleasure. All right, fine. So, a person comes to meet us. Let's play the situation right away. If a friend, an acquaintance comes to meet us, everything is simple here. We communicate, go into details, and so on. But, you see, most leaders, just like myself now, hold meetings for their partners, or you, as a leader, meet with strangers. Who has faced a similar situation? A person comes to a meeting, and we begin to get acquainted, identify their needs, ask questions, tell our personal story. I don't know about you, but strangers, a cold audience, have often interrupted me saying, let's get to the point. What am I supposed to do? It's clear, okay. Tell us in more detail. I realized that at the very beginning, I started to bug people with all these conversations about life, with stereotypes, the cash flow quadrant. You know how it is. If I start from this, I will bug these people. I began to act differently. Often, when a person comes to meet me, If this has happened to somebody, please write me. I decided to reformat my meetings and make my presentations more structured. This is how it started to look like with me. Can I bring the slides back, please? I think they're flickering for everyone, too. One more, please. One more back. I will say what's next. What will I now talk about? Right from the start, I sit down with the person and ask him questions. Why did you come? Why were you interested in my offer? Why did you agree to talk? It is very important for me to identify the need of a person, to understand him. He will tell me, I'm familiar with those from MLM, just like you, or I have time, I need business, or I need to make some real money. You said there is a job for me. That is, every person finds something different in my invitation. And with the question, what did you like? Why did you come? I immediately identify his needs. That's the first thing. The second one. Then I say, here's the deal. I'll tell you about the general idea of the industry, about what will be discussed, and then we will get to know each other and go into details. So here, in the beginning, I always draw my business project for a person and say what we'll talk about later. What does it look like? First, I say, well, first of all, my business is a store chain. We sell a cool product. I'll summarize. I'm not going to tell you any carefully constructed phrases. I'm just pointing you in the right direction, telling you what you need to say to get an idea of your own speech. So, what am I going to talk about? I'm talking about business. There's a network of online, offline stores, there's a company, there's an idea, and immediately, in a nutshell, I sell the idea. The concept of food, water is in demand. Why, I say. My task is to reach the people in the world with this idea. I am organizing a sales system in an existing chain of stores. The company is a partner for me. I say all of this right away. That is, my task is marketing. The way I do this is not important. I'm absolutely free. I can use my contacts. I can, in principle, advertise. I can speak on television. I've done this. I can work with sports centers, with massage rooms, with yoga centers, and so on. I'm not limited to tools. But the main model of my business development is MLM. I mostly just recommend. I like to admit that this is MLM right away. Lately, especially. I speak about this with confidence, dignity. I say, the key idea is that MLM is not an imposed form of product promotion. It is, objectively, the best form for promoting any qualitative product and any idea. This is the main point. So, I immediately disseminate this idea into the person's head, after which I mention the advantages of why it might be interesting to him. It's just 1, 2, or 3 minutes. There's no need to invest lots of money. You have the existing infrastructure. Besides, you have a super product with a huge future in your hands. You can speak in your own words. You can build this business in parallel with what you do today. You can focus on the present moment. From home, in any country in the world, remotely, everything is thought out in advance for you. That is, start the meeting with benefits. I always conclude with the phrase, if you launch this business, it will be able to work without your participation in 2 to 3 years. Interesting? Should we move on? The person says, sure, move on. I say, great. Next, you and I need to talk about the company, about the product, about the business model, and about the development system. Okay, that's it. Let's go. And by this moment, the person is completely relaxed. I've shown him the idea of what we'll talk about. He understood the logic. He's no longer tense. And he won't say, get to the point. What happens next? The next point is getting to know each other. Can I have the next slide? At this point, I present myself. My task is to tell, to get acquainted, promote myself, and show how and why I became interested in this from the point of view of the future. Can I have the next slide? Thanks a lot. Well, how do I tell a personal story? Let's have it as a separate block somewhere in our buy zones. I'll just give you a matrix by which I tell and get acquainted. The first is my background, what I was like before. The second is pain, why my life did not suit me, why my future did not suit me, and especially the pain that is now present in society. That is, ideally, it is necessary that when you talk about yourself, a person sees himself in you. Pain is one of the most important points in your personal history. This is the second. As a rule, you will hear a response from a person. For example, "Oh, that work, this business does not bring anything today." This will be the feedback. The third is to find a solution. The solution I found is why I am encouraged by this idea. I saw the product, the result, the people who actualize themselves. Why you are engaged. The fourth is the future. The next point in personal history. That is, the first is your background, your life before, pain, finding a solution, and the fourth is feeling about future. I sell the future. Why I am looking for people, why I see the future in this, and what will happen in this industry, in this business, in 5 years. That's it. This is an acquaintance. All this initial stage takes 5 to 7 minutes. It depends, you will vary it yourself depending on who you communicate with. So, we are done with this. Let's pass to the company. The next point, please. Company. What is important at this point? I don't need to tell a person the whole story. I don't need to tell the whole chronology. I don't even need to detail these points I talked about earlier. It's important for me in each of the 4 points to emphasize the advantages. Should I slow down? Well, my friends, I will try to speak slower. As far as these 4 points are concerned, it's necessary to emphasize the benefits. What is an advantage in history? That the company is 20 years old. Just words are a theory. What you can say is the company is a reliable partner who has gone through difficult periods and has always grown in a crisis. Say you can rely on the company. Here you have the advantages of speaking about history. The second is infrastructure. And what is infrastructure? Websites, logistics, delivery, online store, application, everything, online training. This is already organized by the company. Besides, here I'm talking about a chain of stores. I say to a person, imagine that you can build a business. And then I show an application on my phone. These are all the stores at your disposal. With this, I begin any business meeting. I show the infrastructure, not just a list of something, but my advantage. That is, you build a business on the existing infrastructure. The third is production. Production makes for the reliability of a product, a reputation with which I can go out into the world. This is the third point. Point 4 is the future. Here I show that the future begins today, when the company is entering the phase of exponential growth, and we are planning to grow tenfold. The company is planning to grow tenfold. So I go, it's important to join at the right time. Do you agree? At the right time and at the right place. I put this phrase here, and the person says, yes, sure. So you came on time. My friends, what's important is that we must understand that when a person, based on the outcome of the meeting, decides whether to be with us or not, it depends on what is more, the minuses, stereotypes, objections, or advantages that will overlap it all. So my task is to ensure that all objections are neutralized throughout the meeting, and it's with the company block that I waive a huge number of objections. That's it. Accordingly, I move on. That is, at the end, a person will see a lot of advantages that he will notice for himself. Well, we've told him about the company. Go ahead. The product. The next block is the product. What's important in the product block? Let's see. Olga, what is 7? Does this mean you can see me or not? Everything's fine, okay. What is important in a product? We are often carried away toward the story about the concept while telling about the product. My friends, it is important that you understand the following. How can you show a chain of stores? In the application, my friends, open the application and zoom until you can see the stores around the world, or zoom out. As for the product, I say as follows. Look, there are two views of the product. There is the consumer's view. That is, I tell the person, you must now forget about the business and view the product with the eyes of the consumer. Do you or your family need it? If not, better forget about the business. This is what I literally say right away. It is important for me that my partner becomes a customer. And the second is to look at the product from the businessman's point of view, its target audience, who needs it, a niche, and the idea as a whole. That is, you have to sell the future with this product. Who needs our product? What is its target audience? What can we create with this product? How many people need it? This is the key idea. That's why when I show the first one, the product from the point of view of physiology, I'm talking here about the advantage of the company over all others in the world. But I dwell on our pros, not the cons of others. I'm talking about a comprehensive approach, about physiology, and that it's not only about selling jars, it's showing the person a conceptual approach. My task is to help him to actually get results, be healthy, and not just sell something. I show physiology to the person. At this stage, he is already grateful to me. At this stage, I'm not talking to him as a seller. Well, this was the first. Second, I'm selling the future. This is looking from the point of view of a businessman. What can I show? First, who needs water? 100% of the market. I can draw this. What audience can we reach? Massage rooms, yoga centers, fitness rooms, beauty salons, the entire health industry. In fact, it's waiting for our product. This is the second. Third, everyone needs our product all the time. That is, once created, the turnover creates constant profit in the future, passive income. Fourth, the product gives visible results. We get growth potential through consumer recommendations. Then I say, all the companies in the world dealing in food, most of them are offering something, but no one talks about a holistic approach. No one positions themselves as such. So, the water topic is a free niche. Our mission is to hydrate the world. I say that water does not compete with other companies. Imagine a market. Here I often go, imagine what potential you can have in the world with this product. That's it. This is how I talk about the product. Let's summarize the main ideas. We have two tasks: to show the future with the product and arouse a person's desire to become a consumer of it. Let's go ahead to business. This is the most interesting. Let's talk about business. Can I have the next slide? The first thing that I show the person is all that is drawn here on this slide. In fact, this is a project of my meeting on an A4 sheet. It's just that everything is arranged a little differently. Actually, all this is written with a pen. I don't draw color pictures, and my business meeting fits just on 2 pieces of paper. We met on Zoom today. How to do this in Zoom? You can simply communicate with a person without showing anything, just verbally. Or you can draw it. That is, when you have to show something, you can use a button show sheet in the Zoom, and you can draw with your mouse directly there. If this option is convenient to you, do it. I often switch to this format of meetings. So, the essence of the business model, how do I show it? To tell the truth, I did not intend to show it now in detail. If the organizers give me the clue about the timing and tell me whether I should show the business model in a more detailed way as I do it, or we will shorten my presentation of it and I will show just the most essential. Vladimir, give me the clue. If I should show money here or show it, just to be brief. Should I show it? The guys are writing. Okay. Well, I'll probably still show it briefly. And if you need details, we can either talk individually or somewhere else in the form of a briefing, questions and answers, maybe even via my social networks on Instagram. So, what is the first thing I show to a person? Can we slide back? One slide. Okay, thank you. There's a company with its own infrastructure. There are consumers. And I repeat once again that I am a partner for the company. My task is to make consumers come to the store and use the product. Here, the consumer goes to the company. The first thing is, I draw an analogy with business. I say, imagine you decided to open your cafe. You need to invest money, to find room, personnel, equipment, and so on. And your task is to find people around your cafe who will come there, and your income will be a percentage of the turnover. Clear? Well, yes, it's clear. I draw a cafe. Here in the right bottom corner, something similar is already drawn, like a small cafe. I say, does it look like a cafe? Yes, it does. Look what we have. There are you, people around you, they come to the store and take the product themselves. In fact, you are the owner of your store, your cafe. The only difference is that you do not invest money. You do not risk anything. You have an existing platform, and you can build a business in parallel with your regular occupation. At this stage, your income is $200 to $300 per month. It's your real money. Do you see? Yes, I do. The analogy with business, everything is the same. Next slide. I show him the scaling, saying, you will never create a huge turnover on your own. Well, for example, in order to have an income of $10,000, I can name this amount, or for example, 1,000. It depends on who I'm communicating with. You need a turnover, well, about 10 to 15 times more. I always show this. But do you understand that you won't create a turnover of $100,000 to $200,000 to earn 10 on your own? Just as none of the cafes will, you will need a chain of cafes. And here, on our team, we often use the example of Starbucks. This is a huge cafe network that makes billions of dollars in annual turnover. We have the same network through people. Here's an analogy. We go ahead and I show business models. What is important to understand is that often I don't come over to that at all at the first meeting because I show the idea, the future, the people verbally. But sometimes people will still ask you, show me the money, show me the business. What is important to understand is that there are three types of showing the money: a marketing plan, a career plan, and a business plan. For me, these are completely different concepts. The difference is that I never show a marketing plan at a meeting. Why? Because these are numbers, formulas. Well, these are percentages. They do not show your business ideas. Then, the second is a career plan. What is a career plan? It is to show at what stage, what the turnover is, and what your check is. That is, to show how much that the gold director, the master, the gold master earn. To show income. To say that next time you will be engaged in planning. You can talk about this. And there's the third one. This is just a business plan where there are no detailed percentages. There's no detailed formula. But the idea of a business is shown. I have drawn these models to myself many times to find out how effective it is, what to show, what not to show, so as not to confuse a person. Once, many years ago, I heard one example from Alexei Lukonin, and I really liked it. That was probably about 7 years ago. I've been showing our business in the same way for 7 years. Identically. If you are interested, a rhetorical question, right? Since you are here and you are listening, this is naturally interesting. Let me show it to you on slides very briefly, and you will go on. If you can understand and accept this, you can discuss this with your mentors. It is very important to synchronize with them. It is important for me that my network shows business the same way. Today we teach teams this. Your task is also to speak about this with your mentor. I will pause more often here. Here, I'm just showing my example. So let's move on. The next slide after starting a business. The next slide. Fine. What am I showing here? The first I say, your task is to find people. On the one hand, 10 to 15 families of consumers, and you will become a director, the owner of your business. $220 is your first check. Is it clear? Yes, it is. The second task, I tell the person, any level of income, $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, and even more. You can, in fact, achieve with 3 people, with 3 specific people. I immediately emphasize, no persuasion, no conviction, no reflections about who would be interested. Because you have to come and persuade. I immediately say here, 3, but specific people. Is it clear? He says, yes, I see. I say, the task, my business plan, is to help them to become directors in 6 months. In 6 months, you became a director, and you must grow those 3 in 6 months too. I say, what do you think? Is it real? He says, yes, half a year is real. Look how we're going to do it. I draw such wavy lines below, you see them now. I say, every 6 months, we have directorial events. There are small regional events between them, and there are events in Europe. Every country has its own events. I say, the task is to bring people to events during these 6 months, and to make 3 of them become directors in 6 months. Is it clear? Yes. Yes, it is. It's an achievable goal. Okay. Okay, your income is $500. My friend, this is calculated. If the directors make 750 points, multiply the turnover by 10%, and you get $450, $500. I write about 500. This is the first thing. I say let's move on. For the next 6 months, you and your partners will have been doing the same. Can you show the next slide? I draw 3 more people underneath. The next slide. It seems to me we'll have a delay of several seconds. I draw 3 more people below. Well, just under this one, the one in the center, and under the third one. 1, 2, 3. I don't draw 3 more on the side because they all simply will not fit here. I say, look, I mean they did the same. There are 3 directors. Here, there are already 9. And your income at this stage is already $1,000. You see how it works, how this business exponentially grows. He says, yes, I see. It takes you and I a whole year of time, $1,000. This is an absolutely realistic figure, not at all exaggerated. We have people who do this in 3 months, I say. I am showing you a universal model. Is it clear? He says, yes, it is. Let's go ahead. I say, and the third stage, these people did the same. Each of them raised 3 directors in 6 months' time. Next slide. So we get 27 people already. I write the number 27. This vertical stage is repeated every 6 months, as if it duplicates. At this stage, your organization has 39 directors and a turnover of more than $2,000. There are much more than $2,000, but I specifically say so since not everyone will work. The scheme will be uneven because of somehow distribution may go wrong. But the general idea is that in a year and a half, your income level will be $2,000. You will already have a car bonus and a free trip. provided that you raised 3 people and taught them to duplicate the system. At the next stage, I show another slide. It will be 81 people. 81 people. This is already a qualification. I can't even mention here what it is called, but we know that this is a golden master with an income from about $7,000. Initial qualification. I scheduled this plan for 2 years, from event to event, from event to event. I don't know if what I've just shown is easy for your perception, but for me, it is very simple. I show it in 5 minutes. These are absolutely real numbers, and it's easy for me to show it that way. If you like my model, you can always apply it. If you have another model to show the future, and it's easier for you to show it, then show it. Whatever. What is important in a business model is to show exponential growth, to show the future, and to show what a person has to do. To begin with, we need to have 10 to 15 consumer families and 3 to 5 partners who want to build a business with us. Please write to me. I'm interested in feedback. Was it clear what I just showed in terms of business progression? You can show further. There will be a completely different figure at the next level. Do you know what is always important to me? So that my partners can repeat me. Why do I show it exactly with blocks? Because I don't like to switch from one block to another all the time. I don't like to confuse my partners. I can show anything at my meeting, using my charisma, doing my best. I can impress people with my experience, authority, give examples. But it is important for me that my newcomer, my partner, can repeat me tomorrow. That is why I have blocks about the company, about the product, about the business plan, either as ideas or as a detailed elaboration and support system. Support systems are the events that I spoke about. I always show the business through the system. I'm often asked by the guys, partners from various organizations and countries, Sasha, how can I invite people to events? This is a topic that deserves taking a separate hour or many hours, and I am sure these topics will still be covered here. So, it is impossible to invite people to an event with a phrase, a call, or just once. You should invite people to an event everywhere and gradually. You see that even at the first meeting, I am really selling the events. I say that we are growing due to the events. There is growth from event to event, and I usually immediately promote the date of the first event. And so the last point is the support system. Can you return to the slide? The support system and the next, completing transaction. What is a completing transaction? A few points are important here. First, I'll summarize. First, I need arguments. That is, from the whole meeting, I choose 2 or 3 theses. I say, let's summarize. Such and such company, such and such offer, such and such product, a business with such and such advantages. Okay, I say, you and I have 3 options here, 3 possibilities of interaction. 1, it's just a product. What is the product? I tell you how to use it, I tell about the results. It is very important to back up the completion of the transaction with stories. This is the first option. The second option, I say, this is the option of recommendations. We have a huge number of examples because it happens that we do not immediately get involved in the business, but come as if through a recommendation. Simple entry. I tell stories. The stories of people who, having given a recommendation, really get huge dividends and bonuses for their recommendations here. I tell the example of Andrei Boyarchuk, who invited Konstantin Tarnopolsky to join me on the team. He, in fact, just gave a recommendation to the person who didn't care about the way the business idea was shown to him. I played some role at the beginning of the meeting, but in fact, it seems to me that Kostya would be interested in this anyway. Although, probably, at that time, I was as effective as I could have been at all. But it's what's called a prepared person. Andrei just introduced me to him. I'll tell you how this happened. I'm telling a story like Alexander Zavgorodniy. His name is not important. You do not know this person and probably never will. Invited a second person, Natalia Pasevich, to my meeting. It was a recommendation, but today, Natalia Pasevich's organization probably has 60 to 70 people. It seems to me, about 70,000 turnover points, give or take. The recommendation worked. I show a person that you don't have to be in the business. You can even not be 100% familiar with the matter. Giving recommendations is the second option. The third option is business. This is an emotional part. I talk about teamwork. I talk about our travels, about leadership. Leadership is one of the most important values of any person. To be a leader, to gain recognition, to influence the lives of others. Here I talk about teamwork and show stories. I have several stories that I always show. The stories of Alexandra Wilhelm, a young girl who came in at the age of 17, are almost always in my armory. I open her Instagram. I show Dima Skachkov or Konstantin Tarnopolsky as a businessman almost just as often. I show Natalia Shverina. This is my silver master, an ordinary worker. And I often show Olena Pavlivna Krutchenko. She recently had her 80th anniversary, if I'm not mistaken. I used to ask the question, where do you see yourself? And always came across the same thing. I don't know, I have to figure it out, I have to think. People are not ready to make decisions right away. So I reformulated, and now I ask the question, tell me, what would you like to know more? Where would you like to see yourself in the future? Now I have two options of the question. And the person says, I want to know more about... Here is a statement of need after the meeting. He says, I am interested in the product. And then I familiarize him with the first 2 points. Discount for purchasing products, health groups, health webinar. Okay. If a person says to me, I am interested in business, I write him 4 points. Discount, purchase of a product, training. We have special videos in our team that we give for training. We give special books. We invite again to this or that event. I immediately sell the next step, the fourth, registration for an event. I say, now let's go one by one. Check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark. Great? The person says, yes, great, super. At this stage, I give him the materials for study at home. He may be immediately ready to take the products, to take the first step at the first meeting, and we immediately set up a second meeting. My friends, I have shown you my business idea now. I hope you found it simple enough, not tricky, because it actually doesn't matter how successful I am, how much and what experience or expertise I have. The main question is whether you can learn from this experience and whether it will be useful for you. If we are talking about a task or focus, I want you to write down for yourself what you're going to talk about in the company block, in the product block, how you will show the business, how you will complete the transaction. Rehearse, speak with your mentor. And most importantly, you should understand that it's better to conduct 100 low-quality meetings than 10 perfectly correct ones. Hold meetings, communicate with people. Make it like a computer game for yourself. Now, in our company, we already have a training manual. You can give it. We have created a distributor notebook. Treat it like a game. I can't show it. Try to enjoy the meeting, not to focus on the result. If a person comes, doesn't come, your mood may depend on it.
Попробуйте не зацикливаться на результате. Он придет, он не придет, от этого настроение ваше зависит. Попробуйте делать это с легкостью. Попробуйте не
Try to do
зацикливаться
it
на
without
результате,
sweating.
а
Try not to
получите
focus on the end result, but enjoy the
тогда
process.
вас
And then you
действительно
really will
будет
experience an
внутренний
inner
эффект,
lightness
на
that will
который вы
attract
будете
people.
приходить. Главный секрет проведения бизнес-встречи — человек
The
может
main
не
secret of
понять, что вы
holding a
говорите,
business meeting is that a person may not
просто
understand what
забудет,
you are
он
saying,
вообще
may not remember, nothing may
ничего не
stick in a
отложит в
person's head,
голове.
but the main idea he should get is the following. I want to be with this person. I don't know what he's engaged with, but he is so inspired. He is so positive. He shows the future so well that I want to be with him, and the details can be figured out later. This is probably the main thing, what you need to concentrate on in your meeting, and everything else is secondary. Even my matrix is secondary. What is important is your inner sensation and the person's sensation that he wants to follow you. For me, there is only a day or two between the first meeting and the second. My friends, I was also glad mostly to share with you, probably, the practice. Practice is always harder to listen to than emotional performance, stories, or motivation, but very often it is practice that makes for motivation. When you know what to say and how to say it, right? I hope your energy level has increased after our communication. I wish you all to make the correct use of the period that is ahead of us now. What is ahead, however, is huge growth, and I'm sure that this foundation, all these dynamics that we laid in the first 3 months of the year, we will be able to build up and go on. I wish this to all of us. Thank you very much for spending this hour with me. I hope I have fit everything into 1 hour. At least I hope so. That's all. See you on social networks, at webinars. I will soon hold a question and answer briefing on some of my social networks, so those who are interested, you are welcome.